I mean, things have changed, and I think one of the main things that has changed is that people are actually looking at what I'm saying rather than just getting their perception of me from one-liners in the newspapers. And people do themselves a great disservice, and they basically disrespect themselves if they make judgments about people and situations without actually checking it out. And I was talking to a journalist this week who was interviewing me for a national newspaper, a freelance, and he'd pitched the story to another newspaper, and the commissioning editor had said, "We're not having him in the paper, he's mentally ill." And of course, what that guy sitting in his little bubble knew about me was only what he'd heard in the same industry or from the same industry that he works in. So he's just had the same mantra for decades, and he's believed it. And what people are seeing now, when they actually take the trouble to see what I'm saying and how I'm saying it, and the evidence in the books that I have to support it, is, hold on a minute, this is making more sense than how I saw the world before. So this is the process that's happening. And we've talked a couple of times, Howard, since I started a world speaking tour in the summer of 2016. It's continuing now. I'm going to Dublin next week or next Friday, and then all across Europe, and then across the UK before December. And I've never seen anything like it. All over the world, literally, Australia, Europe, the Balkans, Scandinavia, America, Canada, people are starting to look at concepts and information and possibilities that they would have waved away with a wave of the hand before.
But David, it's
So
not a completely
changing.
open door, though, is it? One of the last times that we talked, you were having trouble getting into Australia. They were not going to let you in. Clearly that problem resolved itself, but they had issues with you.
Well, a number of people have issues with me, and in authority, and so here's the question, Howard, that these people, Ike's a nutter, should actually ask themselves. Why would authorities have a problem with an apparent nutter who's talking nonsense from speaking in their country or entering their country? Why would they? And by the way, we're talking here about the response to me by the media over the decades in Britain. But when I go to places, for instance, like Serbia or Slovakia or other countries, in the Balkans and into Europe, I'm interviewed on their mainstream programs. I was in Belgrade being interviewed for 25 minutes, seriously, about world events on their two main breakfast shows.
Well, listen, I know this for a fact, and I see some of these videos on YouTube. The problem that you got here, and perhaps other English-speaking countries... Well, look,
Howard, I don't have a problem.
Right,
I don't have a problem.
The issue that you have here... all right.
For something about, a program called The Unexplained, this is a very, very important point.
Well,
I don't have a problem. I am putting out information that people will not hear in the mainstream. I don't have a problem because I don't care how people receive it. I care about the fact that it's circulating. So if people have a problem with me, I say to them, well, you've actually described it perfectly. You have a problem with me. I have no problem with me.
All right, let's park the word problem, and let's say the issue that maybe you have here, and just hear me out with this point, is that you have a back catalogue. You have a history here. People go back to that interview with Terry Wogan that you did. The one that you did 20 years later was very different, we have to say, but they go back to that. They go back to you wearing shell suits. They go back to headlines saying, and I think, I haven't got it with me right now, but wasn't there some claim that somebody around you or you had said that you were the son or a son of God or something like that? And all of that stuff, of course, pollutes the way that you're seen. Now, when you go to places where they don't have that background with you, of course, in this day and age where people have more sources coming into them, and they might be a little more open-minded, you're going to get more of a hearing, I would have thought.
Yeah, but you do have that background because it's all over the internet, and people can access that stuff. This is the question. At that time you're talking about, which was a period of 3 months in 66 years of my life, I was going through a massive transformation. It was like spending your life in a bubble of perception, a bubble of possibility, a bubble of information. And there's a big backstory to it, how it came about. And then someone burst the bubble. And for 3 months, I'm trying to cope and process this information that's hitting me from all angles on multiple levels. It's a long story. It's a simple story, but it's a long story. So are people going to live, and again, this is not my problem, it's theirs, are they going to live their entire life in a time warp? Are they going to judge someone's 66 years from 3 months? Well, if they are, they have a problem. I don't have a problem with it at all because I don't care. But they have a problem because if their perception is that you judge a person for what happened 30 years ago for 3 months against 66 years, and all that I've said since and written since that's been proved to be true, then what the heck else are they perceiving in the world about world events, about people, about everything that is coming from the same myopia? And therefore, how can they possibly, from that way of perceiving the world, understand anything? They can't. And you know, what is happening now is that people's perceptions of everything are being molded, because from perception comes all human behavior, and human perception comes from information received. So if you can control the information that people receive, you dictate their perceptions, and therefore you dictate their behavior. And what we're seeing now is this incessant censorship in all areas, not least through the internet giants in the devil's playground, Silicon Valley, that is dictating what people see and hear, and thus what they perceive,
but
thus how they behave.
If people were controlled in that way, though, David...
I'm trying to break that.
And no, I totally understand what you're saying. You know that you and I have spoken many times before, so I know which page you're on, and, you know, we've been here before. But the fact of the matter is that people are going, and your shows, your speaking engagements are pretty much a lot of the time sold out, maybe all of the time sold out, David. So you can't say that people are controlled to that extent because they're coming to see you. If they were totally controlled, they wouldn't be coming to see you.
Oh, it's about numbers, mate. If you could see the difference it makes in the way people start to see the world in a different way, in a more expanded way, when they have access to this information compared with when they don't, the more that this information circulates. This is basically what's happened to me as the information has circulated as best I can. Nothing like it circulates when it goes through the mainstream. The more people have changed their perception of me and changed their perception of the world. And if we had a mainstream media that would allow all information and perceptions and, if you like, ways of looking at the world to be circulated, then the world would be a very different place. But, you know, it's a very, very narrow band of possibility, what I call the postage stamp consensus, that the mainstream media overwhelmingly pour out and pound out to the world as news and information every day. And the vast majority of people don't get access to this other information. You look at the education system. That's the postage stamp consensus version of the world that's given to children from the earliest age throughout their formative years. And if they don't repeat back what they've been told to believe in their exams, they don't pass.